So we got some stuff that we're gonna try to share with y'all. And again, we're gonna test this out. If it messes up, it messes up. We're gonna roll with the punches regardless.
We
But some conversation about this system. What you got for me, Vaughn?
Yeah, I wanted to start with the graphic that I sent you that talks about it talks about the evolution of offense. Can you put that one
Okay,
up?
let's do
Evolution
it.
of offense.
Let's do it.
I
Let's
saw
do
a
it.
really good a podcast video on YouTube talking
Mm-hmm.
about Isalo's system with Coach Hacklenberg basketball, who does a really good job on his platform. It's another platform called the Scoring Factory that breaks down the game, and then obviously Grizzlies Film. Our guy Adam Pike from Grizzlies Film, he supplied a lot of the film. Uh, but it just talked. It was very I guess you could say eye opening to me as
Mm-hmm.
somebody who loves to study X's and O's. I actually watched that video and it made me rethink a lot of what I'm going to be doing on the high school side and the AAU side when it comes to my players. It was really eye opening for anybody who loves to just who can sit down where other people might be bored hearing people talk basketball and X's and O's
Yeah.
and that what some people like to call nerdy way. I really enjoy it to sit back and then have my own interpretation of it. But it had this really cool graphic talking about the evolution of offense. And it made me think about the difference between the era that we were in and the era that we're moving into. Obviously, with Taylor Jenkins, we did a lot of our scoring and transition. There was a whole lot of pick and roll in the beginning and a lot of isolation scoring from our best players or driving kick shooting. It talks away about the way that old offense works. Old offense, you get a play, one action, one outcome. You get a play, you get a shot. You know what I mean? You got a myriad
Right.
of decisions that might come from that action or that play, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
play and then a shot. Uh, Modern offense is more of a series of actions, a series of plays built in naturally,
Mm-hmm.
where people are constantly doing an action, then it's a decision, action, then a decision, action, then a decision. Then when you have the advantage, you see a shot. So it's continuous decisions, constant advantages, and it leads to better outcomes, which is why you see these higher scoring games. You see certain players not being able to really cut it in the league anymore. Like those players who are just, Cam Thomas is a good example.
That was
Very
my
good
first name.
scorer,
Mm-hmm.
very great scorer. Probably fits with the old offense concept a little bit more than the new offense. Because with those type of guys, you have to dribble the ball for a certain amount of time, dissect what the defense is doing, and then you make up in your mind, I'm gonna go and score this ball. If somebody helps, then I'll kick it. What the new version of offense requires you to do is make quick decisions. It started with the San Antonio Spurs with the point 0.5 decision making. You come off of action. If you don't have an advantage, you go to the next action. That's just how it works. The next one that I sent you, Chris, was about it's the advantages, I think. But the advantage, like when you say advantage, people might not know what advantage means, but advantage basically means you can have three types of advantages. um you can have a positional advantage, so that's like doing a pick and roll and your guard gets switched on to my big, or that's doing a pick and roll and your big gets switched on to my small. Then there's a number advantage, right, where you can swing the ball, swing, or come off a pick, and now you have a 2-on-1 advantage, or you have a 3-on-2 advantage, or whatever the case may be. And then there's qualitative advantages, which is what you'll see in pickup ball a lot, where there's a poor lateral defender, and I know that this guy can't move his feet.
Get his
So if I
ass.
catch the ball, I'm attacking him. You know what I mean? Or, somebody is walking to closeouts, and I know I'm a good shooter. So when they pass me the ball, I know they're not going to close out. I shoot this ball a little bit more comfortably. Or I drive at that defender and kick the ball out because I know that he's not going to close out. So when we say decision, and then you get an advantage, those are the type of advantages you're looking for when you're running the offense. You're running an action. Do you have a positional advantage? Do you have a numbers advantage? Or do you have a just this guy can't guard me advantage, or this guy fouls too much? Do you have an advantage that you can take advantage of, that's kind of underneath positional and numbers? Uh, Positional and numbers are number 1 and 2 because those are more consistent advantages that you can count on. You can count on those things being advantages all the time. Qualitative can be a little different. That lateral defender who hasn't been playing well the last 3 games or the last 2 years can
Mm-hmm.
automatically take a leap in defense, and now he's not an advantage no more. You know what I mean? So, I just think when we talk about advantages, this is what we're talking about. And then I sent you, I think, a last slide, the last one that I sent you. And this was actually one that I made myself. Airtime decision making actually came from the podcast as well. And when he said it, it seemed a little bit, oh yeah, there we go. Transition. Um, so the Grizzlies operate under 3 actions, right? And it was crazy when they broke it down because when you're watching the game, you don't really realize that this is what's happening in front of you until somebody shows you, right? But they come down, they try to get a good shot in transition, and if they don't have anything, they immediately flow into their flow series, which always starts with a spread pick and roll. Um, if you don't know what a spread pick and roll is, that's where the entire floor is spread. You have one person corner, another person opposite corner, and you might have somebody over on the other side of the floor completely, and it's a guard to big pick and roll, right? If you don't have an advantage out of that, there's an immediately kick to a side action where you have, usually to the side where you have 2 people, where you have one person top, one person corner, and they run an action. And if they don't have an advantage, it immediately get kicked to the other side of the floor. So what Tuomas Iisalo is trying to do is operate on all 3 parts of the floor on every possession if you can, unless you have an advantage. So when he first comes down, he's testing the left side of the floor, right? And then that automatically gets kicked all the way to the other side, to the right side of the floor. And then he wants to bring it back to either the top or the left side of the floor again. And he really wants to create closeouts. He really wants to put the defense in a position where they're closing out. So when we talk about airtime decisions are extremely important in Isalo's defense. I mean, his offense. Uh, it's basically deciding before you catch the ball, right? This can work for anybody, anybody who has kids, who plays, rec basketball or AAU or school ball, college players, pro players. The elite players decide before they catch the ball. They're constantly watching the floor, surveying who's out of position, who's open, who's helping. So when they catch the ball, they can make a great decision, right? So while the ball is in the air, you're already processing the floor, seeing the advantage, and committing to it before you catch the ball. And then when the ball is caught, you're executing that thing fast, right? So sometimes
Right.
you might not have to process the floor, because when I catch it, if my man is closing out and they're late closing out, I should already be deciding to shoot this ball or go off the dribble and get a paint touch, right? Or
Right.
sometimes I might be coming off a pick and roll, right? Or I got a pitch or a dribble handoff, and now I'm looking at the back that side defender to see if they're helping. And if they're helping, you always throw that pass. The problem with the Grizzlies in the last few years is the changeover in system and strategy was just too much of a 180 for some of these players, I believe. In Isolo's system, you have to be extremely unselfish. Simple as that. Because immediately once the action starts, you're going to know if you're using that airtime decision concept in mind, you're
Mm-hmm.
automatically going to know whether or not I'm going to have an advantage or not.
Right.
And when you decide that you don't have that advantage, the next process is to move the ball into the next action, right? So I think a lot of times what you saw last year was a coach trying to put in a certain system and maximize his roster and make these players into high level processors. Like, you
Right.
see this a lot from the teams that are great. Like, look at
Mm-hmm.
the way the Knicks played in the playoffs. The way the Knicks played in the playoffs, that ball was like popping around. the entire time, popping around. OKC when they won, that ball is popping around because these players are not coming off and thinking, "Oh, let me hold the ball and try to create my own advantage." They're allowing the offense to create the advantage for himself, and the defense to put themselves in positions. And we are basically dissecting what the defense is doing and trying to find that advantage. And I don't think the video is gonna work. But all I really wanted to talk about was just how much people can see talent, right? And think that talent is everything, but a lot of times it's not. Like it's a lot of times talent is nothing without IQ and execution. And what we seen a lot of last year was the Grizzlies have talented players who couldn't really execute at a high level. And you saying when we were playing and we didn't have that talent on the floor, that ball moved around, right? And it found the right people, and you got a lot of good shots, but you just didn't really have the talent all the way around to match it. And I think
Hmm.
this team this year is a little bit more like it's just a little different. You have the talent now, and it's gonna be interesting to see them execute it. But as you can see, they're getting into action constantly. There's constant dribble handoffs. There's constant pick and roll. There's constant like that ball just touched the left side of the floor, went to the top. Now it's on the right side of the floor. Like it's constant ball movement,
And something gonna let it fly.
and he always gonna let it fly. But there were certain players on this team who were used to that type of offense where
Hmm.
you shoot the first good shot where Isalo's system kind of like is trying to train you to pass up the good shots for the great shots. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? And
Right.
you see, look at the skip. He processed it before he even caught it, attacking the closeout. Now we got a good, you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
constantly making those decisions early and having that ball touch multiple sides of the floor so you can put the next person that's catching the pass in a position where they're attacking the closeout. Essentially, that's what he's trying to do. And
And
I
he
just
talked
think,
about that. Like that was one of his biggest things that I've heard him say since he's been there. Is like, all right, the defense is always wrong. It's just up for us to find out like where we're right at within them being
right,
wrong. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So what you're saying is spot on there.
Right. Yeah, and I he said that a lot on the podcast as well. And I seen that interview that he has that's pretty much famous with our fan base now online. He
Hmm.
talks a lot about that as well, just the defense always being wrong. And I mean, he's kind of right. If you're processing it early and you have a myriad of decisions that you can make, regardless of what happens, you're always going to be right. You just got to process the game that way and keep the ball moving because eventually you're going to find a weak link. You're going to find a guy that's not paying attention. You're going to find a guy that's not in help position. You're going to find that guy every single time. So I think we have the players that can do that. I kind of wanted to maybe we can do that next week. We can list what players fit Isalo's system the best on the current roster. Maybe that's something that we can do, but
Put it down.
I think we have at least 10 to 12 players that this system fits perfectly. And it's just going to be all about who's going to emerge as that talent. Who's going to emerge as that all-star superstar talent to take this team to the next level, and they have a collection of guys who I think are very capable of doing so.